Okay, it's time for another retro review. This time we do the naked time after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and the naked time, of course, as you know, is where they find this planet where everybody is frozen, somebody's taking a shower with their clothes on, and everybody is dead, mostly because of not seeming to care about it all. And we find that by the end of the episode, Dr. McCoy is able to diagnose it as being an undetectable virus that's spread by perspiration. So that's basically the plot, but really the reason for the episode altogether was so that we can get to know the cast a little bit better, know kind of what drives each of the characters. And we've introduced a couple of characters in a blue shirt this time who dies early on, who appears to have been a regular friend of a number of people, including Sulu and Kevin Reilly. Kevin Reilly, another new character who's used in several episodes in the first season and then disappears after that, supposedly replaced by Chekhov, who becomes the navigator after that. Kevin Reilly was kind of a backup helmsman when Sulu wasn't up front, and yet they are friends, so apparently there's more than even two on the Enterprise. It makes sense. At any rate, they're talking about Sulu's latest hobby of fencing, and they encounter this other crew member who's been down to the surface with Spock and took a glove off from a contamination suit he was wearing and catches the virus. It's not detectable by the transporter or by any of Dr. McCoy's instruments, but they do figure out eventually they're going to have to do something about this, and McCoy goes to work on a serum after much of the ship is infected. At any rate, we have a number of characters that show kind of their inner drives. Reilly himself, being an Irishman, is rather proud of his Irish heritage and starts singing Irish songs when he takes over engineering. Leaves his post at the helm, and Spock, who eventually catches it, shows his doubt. This is the first time we see Nurse Chapel's crush on Spock. This is treated about the same way as in every episode she's in. It seems to be the only reason her character exists is to try to seduce Spock, and Spock, of course, has no interest in her or anyone else. And in the Strange New Worlds, we know that he's already betrothed to marriage, and so it just wouldn't be logical to mess around with anybody else. At any rate, we see Uhura, who is unaffected by this virus, but does get kind of in the thick of it when Sulu gets it. And it was such an iconic scene that they've made a toy out of it. This is the Sulu with the sword going on to the bridge, and there's even a little dialogue with this.
We shall you at last. Sulu, put that thing away. For honor, Queen, and France.
Sulu.
Sulu. I'll protect you, fair maiden. Oh, Richelieu. I'd like you to teach me that sometime. Take D'Artagnan here to sickbay.
Now, first of all, we have Spock making a joke, take D'Artagnan here to sickbay, and then we have also him taking Uhura aside and I'll protect you, fair maiden, and they cut the line in this little toy where she says, sorry, neither. It almost is not noticeable in other reruns of the show, but because of the remastering of this, that dialogue comes through. With Spock being a little bit on the snarky side by saying, take D'Artagnan here to sickbay, it's unusual for him to have such a glib line. So the show, written by John D.F. Black, one of the better writers for Star Trek, uses this in order to show the motivation of the captain and his duty to his vessel, Spock, and his fight with his human side. Chapel being inured with Spock. Who am I leaving out? Sulu, of course, seeing himself as a swashbuckler. All of these things say something about the crew and give us a little insight to them. So it's a well-written episode, and it does also invoke the first time warp in order to be able to get us out of trouble. Scotty, who is unaffected by the disease, has to find a way to get them out of a dangerous orbit of the planet, and they have to do it once they are able to get into engineering by cold starting the engines. Now, we don't have any idea what cold antimatter is like, but apparently it needs to be heated up before it can be used. That takes usually about a half hour, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, it's an excuse in order for the engines to implode, and this implosion causes them to travel in real time rather than in subspace, and this is the first time warp that they have done. And they say in the last line of the show, we may try it one day, Kirk says. Yes, they do try it. One time they do it by accident, by trying to escape a black hole, which they call, I think, a dark star. And then another time when they go back to 20th century Earth in order to study it, and that's when they encounter Gary 7. So this is a convenient way of traveling through time that is certainly not without its risks, but it provided the plot for Star Trek IV. It also provided other times being used, most recently in Picard, in order to go back in time there. So where these things start and what possibilities they have. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you did like it, and leave some comments below. We'll read them, and like to get your impression of this episode, anything you particularly liked or didn't like about it. And then next week, we will do The Enemy Within. Also, we're, of course, keeping up with Strange New Worlds and other science fiction TV as it occurs. So stay tuned to this channel. Until next time, don't go far.